Hey, I'm Matt Spencer, and welcome to PowerBoat Television. This week on the show, we're in Kingston, Ontario at arguably the world's largest poker run, the Thousand Islands Poker Run. And we're gonna enter it, only the catch is, it's in an awesome Starcraft pontoon. Whether or not you like cigarette boats, there is no denying the thrill of these impressive boats as they storm by. So it's no surprise that you'll find plenty of them at poker runs, known for their high-octane fun and excitement. It's the last place you'd expect to find a pontoon, but I knew it was up for the challenge. We had a fully loaded 2014 Starcraft Majestic 256 Starlounger. With its comfortable interior, it seemed even more out of place in its surroundings. But it was equipped with Starcraft's all-new HMX Triple Tune Performance Package and a 250 horsepower Evinrude E-Tech, so it also packed a punch. The Thousand Islands Poker Run is a full senses spectacle that takes over downtown Kingston. People from all over bring their impressive boats for the day, while hundreds more pack the docks just to get an up-close look. The event is held in support of prostate cancer, so it's good to know it's all for a great cause. First thing Saturday morning, the docks were teeming with excitement. Crews readied their boats for the day's run, and curious bystanders wandered up and down like an impromptu boat show. One by one, the boats started filing out of Confederation Basin, and spectators packed the pier, anxiously awaiting the display of power. As the boats milled around, waiting for the start, there was no denying the electricity in the air. Eventually, the boat carrying the yellow pace flag sprung to life through the crowd, and with a roar of exhaust and the smell of octane, the poker run was underway. Naturally, the larger, faster boats go first, with the slower boats at the back of the pack. Even though our Starcraft pontoon could hit 45 miles per hour, we were delegated to the back. Eventually, it was our turn. I put the throttle down and held on. Accelerating through the basin, through the boat wakes, was one of the most exciting moments I've ever had on a boat. Not that I ever had any doubts, but I knew this would make or break the whole day. Well, we made it out of the Kingston Harbor unscathed. The Tri-Tune Starcraft handled it perfectly, and as these guys are bouncing around, we're on our way to the first stop in complete comfort. Once we were in the main waterway, we could settle in for what was going to be a great day of boating. The Starcraft pontoon held 45 miles per hour, enough to keep us in the run, while still being one of the most comfortable boats out there. It was a cool feeling to be speeding along with the wind and the waves, and a few late entries coming up on us made it feel like we were right in the thick of it. Just then, Bill Taylor easily overtook us in his Poker Runs America fountain with an impressive rooster tail and the sound of power trailing behind him. The first leg was the longest, a roughly 100-kilometer run to Prescott, an easy feat for the big boys, but a tall order for our modest pontoon. Our plan was to meet them at the next stop in Brockville. Once in Gananoque, we ducked inside some of the islands to get a closer look at this beautiful waterway. This route brought us back to the main shipping channel, just before one of the major landmarks of the area, the Thousand Islands Bridge. We'll leave you here for now and check back in with the poker run later in the show. When we last left off, we were in our Evinrude-powered Starcraft pontoon on the way to our first stop in the Thousand Islands Poker Run. Once under the Thousand Islands Bridge, we carried on and left the main channel, cutting on the insides of Tar and Grenadier Islands. This provided us with some more spectacular scenery. And as planned, we arrived at Brockville just as the big guys were making their way back from Prescott. Well, you can see all the boats are starting to raft off here in Brockville, which means we've made it to the third stop. We certainly weren't first, but we still made it, and we made it in style. The scene at Brockville was similar to that in Kingston, as the boats quickly drew a crowd. Boats rafted up 5, 6, and 7 deep in the marina as crews disembarked to head up to Ribfest for lunch. This was a great chance for the boaters to mingle and talk about how their boats were running, the conditions, and things to look out for in the next couple stops. And what a better way to fill your own tanks than with some of the best ribs from all over Ontario. Plenty of wet naps later, and with the bones picked clean, it was time to head back to it. Much like when we pulled in, the marina docks were littered with people trying to get an up-close look at the boats. We headed out a little ahead of the pack to get a good view of the boats heading out. One boat that always draws a crowd is Bill Tomlinson's twin-turbine catamaran called My Way. When you hear these turbines spool up and see the heat coming out of them, it's enough to make your hair stand on end. After idling out of the marina, Bill put the throttles down and took off, starting the second half of the run. We got a good head start from the crowd and were able to get ahead of some of the bigger boats. It was a very cool feeling to be running alongside some of the go-fast boats. And even though they were overtaking us, it looked like we were just a little bit more comfortable. Just like we did on the way to Brockville, we cut in between the islands outside of the main shipping channel. This brought us back to the Thousand Islands Bridge. Anyone who knows the St. Lawrence knows this is one of the busiest spots. Add in a poker run on a beautiful Saturday afternoon, and let's just say the Starcraft had its work cut out for it. But this is where the HMX package showed its true strength. As some of the smaller go-fast boats had to slow down to traverse the chop, I was able to keep the throttle down, riding on top of the rough water. It got a little hairy in some spots, but I just made sure to keep my wits about me and my head on a constant swivel. We kept moving forward and made it through. As the day rolled on, one feeling that never got old was passing boats that were not used to being passed by a pontoon boat. And when they tried to catch up to us, they soon had to pull back because they were bouncing too much. It wasn't long before we were at Gordon Marine in Gananoque, the final stop in the run. A crowd of boats gathered out front as participants waited for a card and bystanders checked out the action. The pontoon was always a popular draw with onlookers. With our final card in hand, it was time to head back to home base. When we got back into Kingston and headed to the slipway, our pontoon got just as much attention as the go-fast boats. Even the other competitors were excited to see we made it back safe and sound. You see the boats filing in and the Fort Henry turrets behind us. That means we made it back to Kingston. Who knew you could take a pontoon in a poker run? Now let me start off by saying this is a do not try this at home. We are professionally trained drivers and this boat was built specifically for that. That said, Starcraft's new HMX pontoons handled the conditions out there perfectly. Their length and the size was great for the stability and we were able to cruise past a lot of people. It was a really incredible day and it all just happened to be for a great cause as well.